So there's a bunch of monetary incentives with the current structure as to why there's just no one's helping you with preventive medicine. That's all on you. And I guess in the end, what I'm saying is neither administration is ever going to help you with that. So this is still this, no matter who's in power, it's always on you. And don't expect anyone to really make it that much better. If you can't be asleep at the wheel when it comes to your own health. It's always got to be you driving the ship, no matter who's in office.
Bringing you a reasoned approach to health and fitness. This is the Phi Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Phi Life Podcast. I'm John Barban. With me is Brad Pilon. And today we're going to get political. We're going to talk about what is it? Make America Healthy Again movement. Maha. Is that a thing?
I think so.
Yeah. So this seems to be, RFK Jr., I guess, is going to be the new health secretary.
I think that's a suggestion.
As a suggestion, maybe, I guess it's happening. It's within a couple of days of the inauguration when we were recording. So I'm assuming it looks like what I'm seeing here, that's happening. So I think, first of all, I think the government should not be involved in health at all. So right out of the gates, it doesn't matter. There shouldn't even be such thing as a health secretary. All of this there shouldn't be central planners trying to decide what's right and wrong for 350 million people in the States and 40 million people in Canada. But Canada's fully socialized medicine. So how do you separate that out if the government's in charge of something?
Almost, if you think about it, like since in socialized healthcare, since I have to pay for you if you're sick, I'm more okay with there being a set of rules being like, do this, don't do that. But in your case, in the States,
well, it's still at least half of the people here, the government pays for through Medicaid and Medicare.
Oh, okay, so you're still paying for their health.
Oh, yeah. Over 150 million people, his health is being paid for by everyone. So it's, when you add it up that way, that's what, quadruple the population of Canada?
Yeah, that's a lot.
So even if you consider Canada fully socialized, way more people in the States are technically under a socialized medicine system, versus the entire population of Canada. Right?
Funny when you think of it that way, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I think the United States is unique in that it's the only developed country that has that many people. That, like, all of the models of socialized healthcare, none of them are in countries that big.
Right.
I don't know how you right? Like, they're all like Canada, even the UK. None of those countries are as big as the States as a single entity.
If we added half of them together, they wouldn't be as big as the States, right? So,
well, yeah, it would take. Well, you'd have to add like France, the UK, Spain, and maybe, I don't know exactly the number, but you'd have to add a bunch together to start approaching the population of the States.
Right.
Anyways, so right out of the gates, government shouldn't even be involved, but this is where we're at. So I think RFK's appointment is the pendulum swinging the other way from what we just had, from what was just there in the previous administration.
Okay, how so?
Well, the previous administration was a liberal administration. Now you've got a conservative administration.
Right.
Trump is the antithesis, and everybody he picks is the antithesis of everything that was just there.
Okay.
So the person that's highlighted there, I guess, was the Secretary of Health, was a transgender guy that looks, well, I think he thinks he's a woman or whatever it is. And RFK is like a hyper masculine male looking guy. Like, everything's just like, whatever that was, we're going to do the opposite sort of thing.
Gotcha.
But I think in both cases, you land not on the scientific objective truth. You land on a tribe and a tribe.
Yeah, and that's tribalism, right?
Well, the previous administration was tribal one way. Now this is tribal the other way.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, and I'm sure I'm offending almost everybody because nobody's objective.
Good job. Yeah.
Nobody's objectively in the middle. And if you look at the previous administration, that is going down a road of denying the fact that there's a man and a woman. That's going down the road of, there's so many things that's doing where the average person's just like, okay, that's just not me. I don't relate to that in any way, shape, or form. You want to be transgender, fine, but don't tell me that there's 100 genders and all of this stuff, right? Like, that's where that whole side of things is leading people. We're being
new group is
this new group is the reverse.
There's two genders, but seed oils are the cause of all health issues.
Yeah, and all vaccines are bad, and And like, yeah, and all big pharma is bad, and everyone's out to get you, and we got to eliminate sugar from drinks. Like, it's an over controlling of different style. So there's over controlling on both sides.
Yeah.
But none of it's really focused on the objective scientific body of evidence as it grows. Neither of these camps are looking at it that way. They're just swinging into opposite directions. And this is one of the major problems when a government's got its hands all over healthcare. People want price controls. Drugs are too expensive, but then at the same time they're saying certain drugs you shouldn't even have, and all vaccines are bad. Like, I get it. A lot of people were pissed off with COVID and all of those vaccines, and there's all of that data keeps coming out, and people are rightfully distrustful because a lot of stuff went down that I could say I think everyone could agree almost every westernized country has lost some of its trust of its population with how they handled that.
Right.
And this idea that, you didn't have to take the shot. It's just, you can't go to work. You can't leave your house. You can't do anything. Your kids can't go anywhere, but we didn't force you. It's like, you kind of did. Right.
Yeah.
So, where's the long-term data? Oh no, it's okay. It's fine. And then now it's all starting to come to roost. So I think that generated distrust on both sides.
Yeah, it's funny. COVID is the one thing. I don't even know if we can say COVID. This is probably going to get banned.
Yeah, this might get banned.
But it's the one where if you think the long-term research suggests there's problems, you're a conspiracy theorist. And if you think the long-term research doesn't suggest there's problems, you're a conspiracy theorist. Your only option is just not talk about it. Right?
Yeah.
If you're on either side of that fence, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, it's not even like, I disagree with you. It's like you're batshit, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's crazy. I mean, we don't even know if this will get public, like if this will get taken down, what this will do to the channel.
We're saying the word COVID. Yeah.
We're saying that word
with a K-O-V-I-D. Yeah.
Which is nuts, right? Like, the idea that there's that we'd even be worried about that, which is stupid. So
I'm going to go a different direction than you. So if you're done, I'll go. If not, keep going. Let me know.
Okay. So, I guess let me. Okay. So I'm getting to the. Okay. So I think COVID really put distrust in people on both sides of the fence.
Yes.
No matter how on board you were with it, as more information came out, as maybe something might have happened to one of your kids, you're like, wait, what's going on here? So people are starting to distrust generally what the government's doing with healthcare, but they don't really know what exactly to point their arrows at. Like in Canada, you just wait too long. And I just saw an article saying about 15,000 Canadians died just waiting for a procedure last year.
Sounds accurate.
Like that.
Yep. Yeah, still think I saw someone die in an emergency room. I'll tell you that story later. But
okay. So anyway, so there's that criticism about socialized medicine where your taxes pay for it, but you get what they give you and you wait. I tell Americans,
you get what and you don't get upset.
Well, I tell any American who doesn't understand, I tell them it's like going to the DMV for medicine. And they're like, oh no, for healthcare. Like, think of how lousy the experiences at the DMV. Imagine that's your healthcare.
You have more options with vets. You pay for it, but at least you have more options.
Right. Yeah. But then in the States, everyone says it's too expensive, and you end up going bankrupt just trying to have some healthcare, or insurance constantly decides.
It's funny, they're compared as like it's either this or that, and you're like, no, both suck. We need a better version. Like, whenever we say it, people are always like, well, would you rather be the States? I'm like, no, guys, like there's a whole ground in between of someone doing this. Just type it into ChatGPT how to design a healthcare system and do that.
It'll get. Well, it's a false dichotomy because
thank you.
The state is not. It's not a free market system in any sense of the word.
Yeah.
First of all, half the country we've already established is on Medicaid or Medicare, so that's socialized. Then the other half is under a forced insurance purchasing paradigm, where the insurance companies are obliged to offer insurance, but that's weird. The way their business model works is also under control. So they actually can't set rates correctly. They can't really compete with each other. So the model, it's a mess on both sides. And so basically in Canada, you wait forever and you kind of just get what they give you. And here there are options, but you pay for it, and the insurance company still can just decide when they feel like covering it or not. And insurance doesn't even make any sense. You don't buy car insurance and then expect the insurance company to change your oil. Like, it's only there for an emergency, not for procedures along the way. But this goes deeper and deeper and deeper into into the restriction of people even getting a medical degree and the restriction of hospitals. And it goes on and on and on and on. Like, I don't know if people in the States know that a hospital can't be put up in a geographical area without other hospitals approving it. It just goes.
No, we could do a live chat on this, and John could go for like 8 hours straight on this topic.
And I've explored this a lot because I've had to navigate both systems, going through cancer and other stuff.
Time.
So
yeah.
And just reading during that time. I was mute for 4 months, so I did a lot of reading. Anyways, okay, so where are we going here? So the government shouldn't be involved in, and right now I think the RFK thing and the Trump thing is a swing, a pendulum radical swing away from what we just had.
Yeah.
And I don't think either side is seeing, it's all political. Neither side even has a clue what's going on with the research.
They just want to be right. Well, God,
no, they want to be right for their base.
For their base. That's what I was.
Yeah. Okay. They want to be right for their base.
Yeah.
And there's plenty wrong with both sides. And like I said, both of them need to be the hell out of the way.
Yeah. You almost need both of them. Okay, so for me, I'm okay with your idea of government not being involved in health.
Yeah.
I do not mind government regulating in the area of food safety. And so for instance, seed oils and high fructose corn syrup. Really cool. That's what we're targeting, but you completely missed the mark, right? So for me, I would want like heavy metal contamination. I want control over salmonella outbreaks. I want to be able to eat a salad and know that it might not be salmon. And we've gotten really good at that because salmonella is an obvious one, right? But things like heavy metal contamination, where it builds up in your body slowly over years and years and decades and is associated with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, mental diseases, or decreased intelligence in children. Like, focus on that. Like I don't care about seed oil. If a company labels that they have seed oil free, and I feel like eating seed oil free, I'll go there. But it's the hidden things that I think you can that the government could be involved in that kind of regulation. So health in more of a immediate, oh yeah, like this water should not be contaminated with lead, or oh yeah, that supplement should not have cadmium in it. That kind of thing, right? So
the problem there is the word should. And assuming
I'm just saying in terms of if I were an American and I was seeing hundreds of millions of dollars spent on health, I would be less concerned with seed oils and more concerned about contaminated foods, whether it's heavy metals or other things. I would want that one, cover that base first and then work your way up, but cover that one, right? And that's
not politically expedient.
He doesn't know about it, right? So also, if the base right now is yelling about like, holy crap, lead levels in our food are actually really high, and it's not really that well regulated. We want that taken care of. That would be the issue. But instead, we whipped up the seed oil frenzy, and that is now where your money's going. Mm-hmm. And instead of more immediate food safety concerns. So I'm not saying seed oil is not a concern for people who are going to lose their minds. I'm just saying that in terms of the immediacy of it all, long-term effects like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, things would concern me more than seed oils are making me fat and possibly giving me diabetes long-term. Like I don't know. I feel like I would like to see involvement in that area. And that's the fear of the focusing on what the base is really pushing. Let's even leave seed oils alone. Money being spent on high fructose corn syrup being replaced by beet sugar or cane sugar as opposed to dealing with this stuff. That's where I'm like, okay, guys, like let's prioritize here.
Yeah, so but and the entanglement there goes with subsidies for crops and lobbying groups. That's why you can't rely on the government, because they can be captured and lobbied into whatever an interest group really wants. Not to mention the revolving door of the regulator becoming the lobbyist and back and forth.
Right.
So I just don't trust the government to ever have the population's best interest at heart. I trust them to have their own party's interest at heart at all times, and that's it. So I wouldn't leave it in their hands. And now people would ask, well, then who's gonna regulate it? The way it should be working is industry holds each other accountable by calling each other out when somebody else. So
I'm competing with you for Brad's tofu versus John's tofu, and I'm like, I'm going to test his tofu for lead, and if it's high, I'm publishing this crap.
Well, we know we are in an industry that does that at the highest level.
Oh yeah, right? You know what's funny? I never even thought of that. Is that the industry that regulates the supplement industry, so you can rat on each other? Isn't it called NARC? Like it. I swear it was dark, right? And so I'm like, I never even clued into how funny that was.
The acronym.
Yeah. So what happens there is the supplement industry can rat on each other through this program that isn't the government yet. And then this party gets back and goes like, look, clean up your crap, or we're going to tell on you to the government. And we have friends there. We can actually make a phone call.
Right.
So that exists for the supplement industry. I'm assuming it does for food as well. But the problem is if my stuff's high in cadmium, your stuff's high in cadmium, Heather's stuff is high, then maybe we just don't talk about that one. So I think that's, to your point, what's going on. It's hard to hold the industry accountable if you're all in on it.
Right. And still, you're talking about a regulator that can be captured and influenced one direction or another.
Yeah, you almost need consumer-based regulation where it's like you have.
Well, that's what would and should arise is a consumer advocacy group, a watchdog group, but that has power legally to sue. Or
I mean,
anyone can sue
before they're bought out or whatever. Yeah.
Well, but it eventually that would start regulating itself through insurance companies not insuring a product if a product's been shown. Like, we know this, certain products that the data shows are causing too many problems, too many complaints, too many people suing the company selling it. Then the insurance company's like, I'm out. I can't cover this anymore. So eventually, if a company
affects someone else's bottom line,
if a company sells a product that screws enough customers, it would come to light when the insurance company's like, I'm out. I'm not insuring this thing anymore. And that doesn't require a regulator. That's just a direct lawsuit between somebody who's been harmed by something that harmed them. A regulator can be influenced to like get in the way of that.
Yeah,
I guess people don't even see it that way.
It is idealistic. I'd like to be done before someone gets harmed. I don't mind that idea. It's just how do you do it? But
I just don't trust
think high fructose corn syrup is the answer.
Right.
And I know. I mean, the thing about Maha and the news is that the news is going to pick what JFK is RFK. Okay, he could sit up there and talk for 3 hours, and they're going to pick the 3 or 4 sound bites that make him sound brilliant or crazy, depending on what side you're on. That's what gets published, and that's what everyone reads and posts on Facebook, and then make their own assumptions about it. So I honestly don't know if he's released 100 good ideas and a couple bad ones, or if his only ideas have been the bad ones to the base.
No, I'm sure it's a mixed bag. They're both probably mixed bags. And that's another thing with the two-party system.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. You kind of have to take all of it on one side or all of it on the other side. But I bet you most people, if pressed, there's a couple of things he says, you're like, well, I like that. And there's a couple of things the other guy said that, oh, I like that. But there's also a couple of things they both say where you're like, you got to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. But you can't pick and choose.
A decade and a half ago, we flew out to Cambridge and we met with Aubrey de Grey. Remember that? Yeah. And he's like one of the very first longevity guys. Like before longevity got kind of cool as anti-aging thing, he was the first guy. And we went out for beers and we were sitting beside. He was not a grad student, but I think a postdoc. And remember, he was like, "No, government shouldn't be involved in health at all." And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Because I should decide it all." And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
He's like, no, it needs to be a medical professional making all decisions because people don't know what's good for them. And I was like, oh, it's the same
what
thing.
What a pompous prick that guy was.
He was pompous. Dressed like a vampire too.
Yeah.
Anyways. And so my point is someone's always going to reach for that crown especially on health. People love, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I would say on Joe Rogan's podcast, the most popular podcast interviewees other than maybe Elon Musk are like health-based.
Yeah, they're up there for sure. Yeah.
But people love that. So not only do you want to hear from those people, they're on that show. When Joe asked you to go on that show, you're like, yeah, because I want to tell everybody my opinion. I want them to know how right I am about stuff, right? So health, it gravitates or pulls people of that certain mindset in where you just want to make decisions for everyone else. And you know what? It goes back to, you know, when people see someone who they perceive as obese or overweight at a restaurant and they're like, they shouldn't be eating that. I'm like, well, who are you? You don't know what they ate the rest of the day. Yeah. Like I used to, I will say, I remember, I'm sure we did it on a really, really old podcast when we were young and stupider than we are now. making fun of people who'd be like, yeah, I ordered a Big Mac, a large fries, and a Diet Coke. And we're like, why even bother with Diet Coke? I'm like, well, because they cut 40 grams of sugar out of that meal. It was great.
Actually, it's actually a big step right there.
It's a big step, right? But back then, if we were able to make decisions for them, we would just mock that. And so health is always gonna.
It's a charged up.
The extremes. It's charged up. Yeah. You guys think politics and everything else is extreme? It is, but health is no different. Like you're vegan or carnivore. Like John being an omnivore is like one of the rarities. You know, like if you're into this, you have I don't eat these foods. Yeah, but I do eat these ones, and you should never touch those. Like it builds in. So I get why government will always be involved in health, because government loves nothing better than telling you what to do and not to do. It's just I just wish it was more on the food securities. I mean, really, they shouldn't be mandating which vaccines come out. They should just mandate that they are prepared and tested safely. Right. If it's a vaccine for whatever, it shouldn't be there. It should more be along those lines.
But we've just seen they'll pick and choose what's enough safety data. So you can't trust them for that one either. It's kind of like I know it's the whole ripping on Ozempic because we don't have enough safety data, but then pushing out a vaccine with zero safety data.
Yeah. So now
these are the same people we're talking about.
Yeah. MAHA is happening, right?
Yeah.
So for sure, the MAHA people are out in the ocean in a dinghy, just circled by sharks. And the first thing that happens on their watch is just going to be chaos, right? Whether it's a disease outbreak or some sort of bad stat or a vaccine recall on their watch or something, going to be disastrous. But what I want to know is your opinion is, okay, we've gone 4 years, we're pushing 2030. What's changed with MAHA? So we've got he's able to get most things through. They fight him on it, but he gets most of his ideas pushed through. What does the state of health look like in 2030?
Interesting. I don't know how much he can influence like really, really big industries, because they're going to more influence them back. And unless they threaten them, which is not good for the country, not good for the government's revenue if you're threatening some of the biggest industries in your country.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
So it's kind of, there's an interplay there. The government feeds off of tax revenue from all of its biggest industries. It's not in its best interest to attack those industries. So it's kind of like they're caught in the middle of wanting to tell them what to do, but those industries are like, no, we're going to tell you, because the government's money only comes from taxing industries as long as they're doing well. But if you start getting in their way, then the money starts dropping for them and the government. Because where does their money come from besides taxing them, taxing us, taxing them, everything? So if the government wants more money and to grow, which it always wants more money and to grow, it serves its best interest for all the companies in its country to make more money and grow. So you don't really want to get in their way. You don't want to tell them what to do, because they're usually much better at making money than the government is.
Yeah.
So
it's really good at spending it, but
they're good at spending it and taking it from everyone else, but they're not good at making it. So unless you call taking it from people making it. So anyways, I don't know that too much will change. I think maybe there'll be platitudes that make it sound good for people, and some window dressing, like you said, the seed oils, certain things that make people in a particular tribe feel good about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think fundamentally major things necessarily will change. It's also way too complicated, and you're talking about trying to 3-point turn an ocean liner. It's just there's just too much entanglement of things moving forward just as they are. So, there's talk about price controls on drugs and all of that sort of stuff, but I'm pretty sure any company they're trying to do that to will have a pretty good legal team and a structure on why that's like deleterious for the government's own interests. If you put price controls on it, somehow it'll turn back into less money for the government too.
Right.
Like if you price control a company, that's the start of the end of that company.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think, just judging by the personalities involved, we're going to see a larger access to drugs and more ability to prescribe or get your hands on drugs for off-label uses. That's what I think, the off-label use. So their whole battle cry with ivermectin, right? You might see things like Anavar or oxandrolone. I was talking to someone who lives in Dubai, and it's like regularly prescribed for like ankle injuries and like tendinopathies, stuff like that.
Interesting.
So I think you're going to start to see opening up of drugs that general practitioners kind of know, yeah, this kind of helps in this area, but I can't use it for that area. I think you're going to see more ability to then use it in that area. I think that will be, because that benefits the drug companies and benefits the reputation of Maha, right? And
do you think they'll pick and choose which drug?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think it'll be the ones that, well, if I, not to be conspiracy theorists, but the ones that help them out the most.
Right.
But I think we'll see, similar to the last decade's rise in TRT for men and the hormone replacement therapy for women in the early 2000s. I think we're going to see more like, what else can this drug that we have, that we can make for cheap, that we have an abundance of, be used for? Like, it was originally a diabetes medicine, and holy crap, it's causing weight loss. I bet you we could make billions, right? But I think that off-label approach.
Interesting.
Yeah, and especially if you think of the big, I don't know, I don't watch enough Hooverman, but you've told me enough about Atia. But Atia has drugs he likes. Was he on metformin?
I don't know if he's on it, but it's one of the ones he likes for not just diabetes application, but for metabolic.
So I think the ability
benefit.
to benefit that, it's almost like the legalization of marijuana up here in Canada. There's almost, if people are going to be getting this somehow to use it for this reason, we may as well regulate it, make money off it. So I think that's what we're going to see. And so bookmark this and come back in 5 years and tell me how dumb I am. But that's that's
an interesting, that's an interesting thought. I did talk to somebody who runs a TRT clinic, and I said, what do you think? Anything going to change? And one thing is peptides have been basically taken off the market, at least in
the
California.
Growth hormone chunks, right?
They're the various growth hormone peptides. Some of them are good for healing. Some of them are good for.
Do you remember we interviewed a guy on the front end of that like 12 years ago? We went to his office, and he was big on those, and I had no idea they even existed. So
right. So he thinks those might come back. He thinks they might loosen up on the restrictions on those. Maybe get some more research done on them too, because right now a lot of them have landed in the gray area where the full sort of all the research necessary to really have it fleshed out isn't fully there. So it's maybe that would develop a little bit further. It seems as though they have at least a thought to living a sort of fit lifestyle. But again, you can't tell people what to do as far as like a day-to-day routine that's sounding very totalitarian.
Yeah, that's the thing. Even the Elon Musk's whole idea of less regulation. And then one of the first things I heard was, forcing companies to change from high fructose corn syrup to cane sugar. I'm like, well, sounds like a regulation.
Yeah.
Right?
I
don't think the food issue will be interesting too, because I don't know really how much of that is imported. And then are you going to tariff? Like, I don't know much about the tariffs, but I know that a lot of fresh fruit comes from Mexico during winters. Is that you can pay 25% more on your fresh fruit, maybe? So that might affect the food choices and food laws. But I think if I focus on pharma, that's my guess, is more off-label usage for existing drugs, et cetera.
Yeah, it seems like there'll be some kind of focus on pharma. It seems like there is a pretty wide sentiment of distrust of pharma, and people don't really know they don't know how to react to it. They just know it's this sort of monolith, and something about it doesn't feel right. Either drugs cost too much, access is not high enough. Certain drugs feel like they shouldn't be used as much as they are. Like the side effects are being hidden. I don't know, whatever it is, people have all kinds of reasons that they're distrusting pharma. So they kind of feel like, well, who's our advocate? It can't just be me, just me against, whoever, some giant pharma company. Someone's got to represent us. So I think that's part of what this is. And to your point, who knows where they're going to go with it? I think it's just going to be all what's politically expedient and nothing really to do what's best for any one individual.
Yeah, it makes sense. Whatever gets good headlines at the time, right? So
we got to wrap this up. We got to come to a note here. So what's the Phi Life thing here? You always have to take health into your own hands.
Yes. You're never going to be regulated into being healthy and lean.
No one's going to regulate you into healthy and lean, and they better not try to, because that's the end of a civilization if they're telling you what to eat, how often to exercise, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
you should take monitoring your own health into your own hands, and sooner than the system tells you. So using me as an example, I just went and got myself scanned and found a cancer, found a few things I'm working on now with no symptoms. Not saying you have to spend that much money, but it's prudent to take it into your own hands and start building your own concept, not leaving it up to whatever some administration decides is the right time to start looking at things.
Yeah.
In general, both systems, Canada, socialized system or the United States, is not necessarily designed for prevention. And I don't think this administration is going to make it any better. The monetary incentives just not there for you to start doing tests much, much earlier. There's not a lot of payoff for the various insurance providers, whether it's the government itself or in private insurance providers, to spend money on you checking in to not find anything, to hopefully catch whatever you will find way, way earlier. You might not even be with that provider by the time you ever need care, but the benefit of you needing less care from the preventative effort is not worth their money. So they're not going to spend money on you now to get ahead of prevention, to not benefit from you being healthier later if you're not with them.
Right.
So, like if you change to a different region, change to a different provider. So there's a bunch of monetary incentives with the current structure as to why there's just no one's helping you with preventive medicine. That's all on you. And I guess in the end, what I'm saying is neither administration is ever going to help you with that. So this is still no matter who's in power, it's always on you. And don't expect anyone to really make it that much better. If you can't be asleep at the wheel when it comes to your own health. It's always got to be you driving the ship, no matter who's in office.
Yep, I think that's completely fair.
I think that's as best as we can do. That was a bit of a messy talk, but let us know in the comments if we seem to have arrived anywhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Let us know if this makes sense.
Yeah, did that make any sense, or did you make it worse? All right. All right. Let's leave it there. Let's see.
Yeah.
All right. So for Brad Pilon, I'm John Barban, and that's your Phi Life Podcast.